Apparently, we hit a vein of bunny fluff tonight. Okay, so I actually like matrixing. I never really understood what it was for. Short of like gridding out. There's certain equations. I think it's bracket P E something like that. It has to deal with like some shipwreck that was um had a bunch of gold in it, and they had to figure out the drifting over time, given the current or something like that. And that's a real practical to why apparently matrix multiplying is important in that form. On the other hand, more recently, I discovered that pixels on the Game Boy come in three colors, or four colors, right? You got white, two flavors of gray, whether they be crossways or up and down, and this diagonal. And that can get a little bit complicated to understand. Not necessarily why I brought up pixels for a 6 by 6 or what is it, a 66 or 64 grid for pixel art is because a lot of the times in there, the way you fight for space on or usage of that limit, something going on with that if you understand pixel art and how that works with Game Boys and stuff like that, then that's your practical catalyst. Once you get out of that, that should work to the computer screen, however big not there, you don't have the limit to the cartridge of what you're doing with that system, but yet some of the compression I do believe is necessary for how to understand that analog variant of that, how you are learned it.
Based on a centuries-old algorithm. It goes like this. Multiply elements from the first...
So why? In Hello World code, usually that's going to be move the subject, move it around, move it to this corner, move it to this corner, move it to this world. Take the letter A and the subjects of the screen, no matter what length that is. That could be the length of this screen. That could be the length of a pixel argument that is relative, because you'll fit multiple letters inside of there, and then they run in sequence through that model. So pixels would give me a dot. That dot's got to correlate to that superposition for a 1 and a 0, much like hex. It's a 4-bit there. 0, 0, 0, 0 is 0 until that hex code comes over on a triangle where it gives it more ones and zeros. Well, where did those ones and zeros come from for it to jump the logic gate and know what it's doing? Without a real practical about that metrics, and again, I'm not talking about computer programming here, I'm talking about why a math student in 8th grade, given other students, the here math class, here English class, you multiply the first position and the first position as a teacher and say they're based off of the curvature of those students, yes? I don't know why it's arbitrary this way, but it's arguable that two math classes, the same math class during the day, is one of those problems with the brain and this system in general that gives us a big issue on that measure theory, because still hydrogen, helium, hydrogen 118 on the periodic table, and there's somewheres in there Einsteinium and Tennesseium, right? I guess so. Mathematically, you're not wrong. The weight and the element, but a little different. Is it the S at 1s1 order today? It would have to be hydrogen. You can't just cut in the middle and say that that's not 1, because once you're in the middle, it is 1, and it'd be relative to those shorter distances as well. It's always 0 is there. To the approximation weak iron smoke welder, that's a good room. When everything's burning, you're not going to smell steel beams burning. So where am I getting off subject here? I think that was the bigger problem with the algorithm for solving metrics, is as far as what this would do. When I really think about when I was a kid, short of a classroom teaching me like a Pavlovian dog with no ball to throw, not even bring back, do I think that there's a real problem while pushing it to AI? Now, again, for practical reasons, there has to be a reason the AI does this. Well, what's the catalyst? What's the Feynman's two sticks to get the banana that fights the astrologist and gets the Mayan orbitals worked out here about the moon phases, the lunar clock? Well, there's the sun, there's black holes. What's relative? Are we doing one of those fixed orbitals, or is it within the triple body problem? I mean, without that catalyst, why would you build any of this? And how would you fully truly say you'd understand it, short of, okay, somebody finally got you to that point? Not necessarily like they Pavloved it to. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the kid was mad at you, asked you what you do here for a living. He gave you the Goodwill Hunting pitch about, I'm still the math teacher, and that's the way that is. And hopefully they are a cocky dick about it, and that makes it real easy. But it's a life thing. I just wanted to bring it up in terms of the metrics, right? Neo, you don't usually make your first jump, and Morpheus will probably be out there somewhere and chase the rabbit. Because technically that's what you've done here. Otherwise, you get a node tree, right? There's a nice little 3x3 in general. I'll put one in there. Well, up, down, spin, it's up, down. Photon gluon is what that is. Photon gluon, W boson, Z boson, but photon gluon, W plus boson may be relative to those notations, and I can't really determine any of that because I don't even know what field of chemistry or physics I'm in. If I'm in the subperiodic, subperiodic, periodic, classical, orbital, and extra celestial, black holes, neutron stars, stuff on the big end. But that gives you a general stick to work with, and it still works on the standards of Y symmetry mathematically of an orbital ball, some squared circle that you have, or some ball wave process of it, coming through on some latitudinals that hit. Now, again, that's a lot that I've said as far as words. What do they call it? It's an algebraic series. And they can't tell me that's not what this is. It's definitely an algebraic series. It would have to be standard model, one half, 1/3 stuff. There's no way that doesn't forego in that form. But again, how is that practical to something? I'm not saying it's not brilliant, genius on the fact that this is what this is, but no shaking hands of danger, steel mill. Kills me.